music.
I was
That's
expecting
my
music
bad.
too.
Oh, what a garbage job.
You know what I'm gonna do?
Hold on, just
I'm
play it.
gonna-
Just play it now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
put it in. I'm gonna put it in post. I'm gonna add music so that we sound even dumber.
And welcome back to the Level Up podcast. I'm Wade
What
Reed.
podcast? What podcast are we
Oh
on?
gosh,
Wow.
that
Wow.
was a slip.
What a I thought you were so prepared for today. You
Dialed
brought us
all the way in.
you brought us Mexican coffee. We're drinking it, we're enjoying it, and then that happens. Like our break was longer than is typical. Usually our breaks are artificial and about 2 minutes long.
Well, and I think we're all intimidated by the level of talent and skill we just witnessed. So one take.
Man.
Someday
Can
I'll
we-
come
can
in
we
to do a
shout out?
read
Oh, please.
and do one take.
No, you got to do it because I only know her name's Jackie.
Oh, shout out to Jackie McGriff from the Our Voices Project and the Representation in Cinema podcast right here on the Lunch with Our Podcast Network. She showed up, did a read in exactly the time frame, dead perfect the first time. I'm like, God damn, what a
Awesome. Yeah.
professional.
Yep. And then
She's the best.
we can't even work our cues out.
She literally could have been
and
walked
we're
in the door.
still talking about it. Yeah.
She literally could have walked in the door and walked out in like 40 seconds.
I would have loved that. Just walk in, walk out, and just like bam.
Didn't they do that on The Simpsons where she's gonna record her lines for the doll and then Krusty comes in and does his and they haven't even like threaded in like the tape to record him. All right, we're ready for you, Krusty, and he's already gone.
Bam.
Back to coffee.
Back to coffee.
Back to coffee. So second coffee from Mexico. This is the Onyx you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. So if you missed part one, we had a broadsheet from Chiapas. This is a fellow drop. So Fellow's take on Onyx, Mexico?
No, this is
Like,
still Onyx coffee.
It's
so-
Onyx. They roasted it, but
Yeah, but it's not customized to them. It's just unique to how they sell it. But it's always nice to see Onyx stuff. It's consistently very good. And the nice thing about what I'll say is, as somebody who has essentially a fellow setup in their kitchen,
oh, you're beating me to it.
so I've got the the kettle, I've got the the Ode to grinder, and I also now have the fellow Aiden coffee brewer system, and that's what we made this on because it gives us lots of information.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to bring up too was the Onyx packaging is intense. It came in a cardboard box labeled. Then it had another cardboard box that the coffee was on in the inside, which is all branded.
Yeah, with a lot of different branding.
A lot of different brand. There's some iridescent sticker on here.
So this is kind of funny. I don't mean to read the stage notes, but hold it up to your camera, man.
Oh,
Oh, let me switch to Aaron. Look at that. Ooh.
so here's the boring box.
This is box number 1.
And I knew what happened when I came here.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's the branding box.
It is pretty slick. I like that printing style. It does look really good.
I don't know if you can see the iridescent snake on the back that's there.
No, that's pretty cool.
And then in there is their coffee bag, which is also labeled. I cannot, for the life of me, that's a lot of money in packaging.
For sure.
Like, I know their coffee's good and they're a big deal, but that's a lot of money in packaging. Is it needed?
I don't. Yeah, sure. If you have the money, I mean, we should do everything we can to treat the coffee more nicely, I guess. I really love that clear bag, except that like if you set that on your counter and light's getting through, but I mean, maybe it's not that big a deal if it's not, like direct sunlight in a window, but
For
like,
sure.
yeah. I see how it's unique, and I imagine that's like compostable or something. Does it say anything on there? Like,
I kind of imagine.
yeah,
if
I would
they're
have to
doing
guess.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Otherwise, I mean,
because like if you're buying it there, like their boxes, because they do a lot of different, colors and different style designs, that there's a consistency, and maybe that internal bag is the same every time, so they're only doing that one style. And then the outside is where they do the labeling and packaging.
Yeah.
So that maybe they can do that affordably and do that that way. But regardless, I mean, I think we've all had Onyx coffees before,
Mhm.
and I've always had a good experience.
This is
And
actually my first.
is it really?
That's why I was jumped on it when I saw it.
Yeah, because I've had a few both at multi roasters and other locations. I've never been to one of their actual spots. Um, but setting up on the Aiden was really easy.
Y
You sent me a link.
I was gonna say, tell me what it did, because I knew you had the Eden, and I was like, "Oh, this will be perfect to talk about that a little bit." What was it like when you got the link and everything?
Yeah, so this is my first time using one of the provided profiles. So with the fellow drops, if you buy one of those, it sends you the profile and you can download to the machine, say how much you want, tells you how many coffee beans to put in, what grind range, and I ran it and I just hit the button and that's it. It does their profile for what they want this experience to be.
That's so
Um,
good.
which I think is really cool. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I have a profile I've set up that I use fairly generically. I don't really dial it in for any of the coffees I use. I kind of just use the same recipe. Um, but it's nice that they made a choice for me. And if I like it or not, I like that they made a choice for me and that this is the way we think it's best. And they set up on that machine at their shop, which means they've at least say, hey, we think this works good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's cool.
Well, and the last time we were talking about, I think I asked Wade, if you get an expensive coffee, how do you go about not wasting it to, dial it in, so to speak, without making a ton of brews? And so that was one of the things I looked. Both of these had roaster provided recipes
Yeah.
also.
And I think that's obviously one like quite a few levels removed from, we're the company that actually made your brewer and we can tell you exactly how to program it. But it is but that's I think a thing that roasters like good roasters do pretty well is providing some insight about this is the best way to brew this and this home grinder, this setting, this, again, like all the parameters you gave. So and something that I'm not real good about because I'm like, I don't know, it's good coffee, drink it.
Yeah. And I'll say like I'd say this is a very well dialed in recipe. It's a little bouncier than our last one. The
Yeah.
body's a little bit lighter. Um, I would say it still lives in that, in between milk and dark chocolate zone. Maybe you're getting a little bit of extra fruit and herbal, but it kind of lives in that comfort world of Mexican coffee again.
Yeah, there aren't any flavor notes
I
Hmm.
on
was
the
just
website.
looking on the box for that. And yeah,
None on the website. Interesting.
I would say it's a lighter bodied version of what we had before. Um, but I say in a really pleasant way, I like this quite a bit. But again, it lives in that I would drink it and not think much about it
Sure.
and say this was a good coffee, but not one I would purposely go back to because I like weirder more than comfort. I like
Definitely.
exploring more than comfort, which
Yeah,
we kind of touched on in the first half.
exactly. Exactly. And
we're gonna drop Chris off in the middle of nowhere with a really double anaerobic washed,
I
what a
feel great.
thermoshocked co-ferment.
I feel great about it. It's going to be awesome. But I'm kind of intrigued because you're actually doing some extra
Yeah.
research, Wade.
I got really interested in Mexico coffee. I think, it's mostly a volume game there. Um I don't think of Mexican coffees as fetching particularly high prices in general. And so where I went with that was I was wondering what like a typical like cup of excellence coffee sells for in Mexico, right? Like and I know that's kind of an outrageous gauge, but it does give you an idea. I think the numbers are interesting enough that they give you an idea for what I'm talking about, where they don't fetch quite as high a price. So cup of excellence, which I'm sure you're about to ask about, is it's a group the Alliance for Coffee Excellence goes into these coffee growing countries and they gather, just literally thousands of samples and they cup and cup and cup and cup, and actually you can apply to become a cupper, like to go and become a taster for these different competitions, and then they grade out. So everything gets scored, and then they grade out, winners for certain categories, and the categories are actually different country to country. I found that really
Interesting.
interesting. So like, you'll remember like Best of Panama, didn't want certain experimental. In other countries, like Guatemala, for instance, there's an experimental category,
Huh.
and there
Hmm.
might be one. Is there? Yeah, and in Mexico too, experimental. And so you get a little less information about those coffees, but it was really fascinating to me to see that like other countries, Guatemala or sorry, Panama made a huge splash, but other countries are like, nah, let's do the rational thing and section this off and just say among these coffees, there are good and bad examples. So, that was really interesting, but, um, the number 1, the highest okay, sorry. So they host these competitions and then they hold auctions for the winners.
Okay.
And usually it's like top 10 or 11. I'm seeing most of these go to 10 or 11, get auctioned off, and they fetch these are the coffees that, get the $2,000 a pound in Panama, right?
My favorite coffee goes to 11.
Yes, exactly.
So
So,
sorry.
we've never used 11 before. We've never gone to 11 before. But so, uh, these are like, yeah, in Panama, you're talking about like the Black Jaguar Gesha that we had, or that we talked about. We didn't have it. We talked about
Sure.
going for like 2,000 a pound. In Mexico, they're like breaking records in 2025 for their highest auctioned COE coffee ever. Do you wanna guess how much it sold for?
A
Anyone?
pound, or
Yeah, a pound.
I'm gonna say 20%, $400 a pound.
Okay,
I was going to go up towards 700 just to.
okay. In Mexico, the highest selling coffee sold for $71 a pound.
Holy cow.
What?
Isn't that wild?
See,
that's
this is why I like Mexican coffee.
$71 a pound. And I mean, there are just all kinds of fascinating things here. These are the traditional wash process coffees were the highest sellers in Mexico.
okay.
So, like, not the experimentals. The experimentals were quite a bit lower. We'll talk about that in a second. But
What? Re-
and then variety wise, it's almost all Gesha, which like Mexico's not known for.
Hmm.
There's this hybrid variety called Ana Cafe 14, that is the Timor hybrid with Pacamara. So I mean, I don't even know what to think of that. And Mexico, I started looking through as much as I could. Mexico is one of the only countries that doesn't have like a traditional variety category, but still has among its top 10 one coffee that is just Typica and Catura.
Great.
And I'm just like blown away. If you go to Guatemala, they actually section off these are our traditional varieties and the Tipicas, the Caturas, the Bourbons, right?
Yeah.
And they actually list on the Mexico or on the Guatemala COE what all the different um, varieties are. But the highest scoring traditional variety COE in Guatemala was like $14, $15.
Huh.
And at auction, this Tipica Catura was the 8th most expensive COE coffee. Or no, sorry, it finished 8th. It was not the 8th most expensive. In terms of expense, it's more like 5th. And it was 28.60 per pound, which is
Wow.
like, I mean, still very expensive. That's a great price. And
For
the
sure.
lot, that lot ends up being worth to its producer, like $9,500. And it's not a huge lot, but um, so it's still really good. But think of like a Tipica, a Catura. Like I could go out and buy Tipicas and Caturas for like $7 a pound. That would just be excellent. This is fetching that kind of price.
Yeah.
So like Mexico is real. It's fascinating because like I just don't think you're gonna find that anywhere else.
Huh.
And then all their experimentals were from 38 pounds or $38 a pound down to $13 a pound. So like their experimentals are just not competing in this market because of what everyone seems to expect from a Mexico. It's just it's clean, it's this, it's what we've
Hmm.
had. It's straightforward, it's not challenging and so it's an interesting limitation, I think, but also just a I mean, what a fascinating a Tipica and Catura. That blew my mind. I was just like this there's nothing more common than Catura.
Can I ask a question that might not have it almost definitely doesn't have an easy answer? Um, so we when we talk about, I would say, origin, and we talk about, in this case, this would be our terroir in wine terminology. Um, do you know the reason why? Is it the land? Is it the varietals in how it's grown? Is it elevation? Why do we see such relative consistency in style through the country, which is vast when it comes to, you know, the geography, even from where it's grown in Mexico, is very different because Oaxaca's very mountainous, right? You're getting pretty good elevation there. So you're getting different stuff, but there seems to be a unified feel to Mexican coffee that we've talked about. Do you have a reason why that is? Or have you looked into that?
I could think of a couple. The variety spread in Mexico is actually pretty tight. Like
Mm,
Típica is everywhere in Mexico. Via Sarchi and Sarchi Moors and other Caddy hybrids are also really common. Caddy is Caturra and the East Timor hybrid, and it was bred to survive in harsh climates. And that's another kind of interesting wrinkle. In Mexico, you're getting up towards that latitude where it gets really hard to grow a lot of coffee.
okay.
Um, and so you yeah, there's not as much of the mountain that you can use. But what's the other interesting, thing with that is then you get these 900 meters above sea level coffees that in other origins would be considered pretty bad that come out in Mexico pretty well because they still experience pretty dramatic temperature swing because of the
Mm,
latitude. So, um, I would say that it is unique because of how far north it is. It is unique because the variety spread is pretty tight. I'm actually kind of surprised to see Gesha's on the list at COE Mexico. I'm like,
yeah.
when I've not had a Gesha from Mexico, I've not heard of a Gesha from Mexico.
I
I
don't
don't
think
know
I've
who's
ever
selling
had
that.
one
Yeah.
either. Like, and I've
Uh,
had a decent amount from different countries. I mean, I can think of at least 3 or 4
yeah,
different
absolutely.
countries I've had it from over the years. At least probably 5 different countries I've had it from.
So I think so those are kind of the structural limitations. Honestly, going back to our previous conversation, the fact that there are groups of producers who have to kind of group up in co-ops to sell to just to export, that's gonna flatten a lot. That's gonna maybe you have a super unique coffee, but if you're one of 1,700 producers selling in, a given lot out of this co-op, maybe
You're
that's
gonna
gonna
get
have an
lost a
effect
little bit.
where, yeah, you're up against or you're together with all these Tipicas and Caturas and whatever you have is just kinda yeah, is just kinda it fades into the background. So it's part of it, but I think there's just a marketing thing. Like, I look at the names of the companies that buy these COE lots, and they are these, like, super specialized, honestly, mostly South Korean and Japanese companies.
Mm,
There are a lot of Australian companies, there are a lot of New Zealand, UK, and there are some US too, but, um, these are companies that are so specifically marketing something that if you go to the average consumer and say, "Mexico," it's got too much already of that, like, "Well, this is limited,"
mm,
kinda baggage to it. So I think they have a marketing problem. I think, like, people need to kinda step outside. It's like James Hoffman said, Mexico can actually kinda taste like everything, and that's just not at all the perception.
well, it's the same with
Yeah.
Mexican food too. Like,
Right.
Mexican food is everything,
Right.
and it's like it's not a unified thing. It's certainly not Taco Bell, but it's a it's
It
there's
doesn't
so
lend
much.
itself to an identity. I mean, at least in coffee, if you're everything, then you're nothing.
I mean, it's also like Mexico is so large north to south,
Yeah.
and the regionality is so distinct. Just like India, it's so regionally distinct that like the cuisine is so varied, and it makes sense that the coffee would be varied as well. Like I've had, and shout out to Joe being sponsor of the Lunch Hour Podcast Network. Like the Oaxacan coffee you had from them recently, that one is different because it's from a smaller group of places
Exactly.
that it can be more distinct. And I love that we can taste something like that still. But I think you're right that the aggregation flattens, but that's what everything is, right? If you have a huge group of anything, it tends to get flattened out. You lose the extremes.
Yeah. And I don't know where, you know, I have a little bit more of a bearing on where governments stand and the roles that they play
Sure.
in other countries, especially like in a Colombia, in a Guatemala, you know, Ethiopia, places like that. The government's really clear. I I think just the fact that I don't know where the Mexican government is at vis-a-vis the coffee trade kind of tells me a lot. You know what I mean? Like
That's
there's
fair.
probably plenty going on that's holding that back. I mean, I assume all governments are holding all agricultural industries back, unfortunately, but I think just the fact that you don't hear like, yeah, you know, they regulate these things or they help farmers in these ways, the way that you do it a few other origins probably means that part of the problem is just that like, you know, people are finding it hard to get around regulations or they have to grease certain palms just to make certain relationships work in Mexico. So I don't, you know, I don't know, it'd be an interesting conversation with Joby, and I'm sure to
Yeah.
hear like how they found this one. That was it their Good Food Award coffee?
I think I forget if it did or not. I mean, let's just say this, it was I would say, as somebody who drinks a fair amount of different coffees, it was pretty special. And I think that's
Is this the one from the ad read, the pineapple one? Right?
uh this was no, this
Oh,
was
okay, that
this
was
one
a
had
different
more
one. Okay,
green tea
okay,
flavors.
cool, yeah.
Um that was, I think that was a Costa Rican
Okay,
coffee.
yeah,
That
you're
was
right.
a
You're
good
right.
food
Gotcha.
ward
Yeah,
one. But you know, it's I love that we can still have this conversation, want to learn more about, hey, maybe we do need to learn more about that stuff. And hey, we can make assumptions, but
you're right.
at some point, there's got to be some documentation about what's going on
Sure,
somewhere.
somebody knows.
Yeah, exactly. Um, well, I think we're going to close out. So we've had a good recording session, but any plugs you want to get out, Wade?
Industry nights every third Thursday at Ugly Duck. I think is this the
February.
last one
The
coming
last
up?
one on the schedule is
On the schedule,
February
yeah, so
11th.
and I'm sure they'll do more, but yeah, they just haven't released, like, a future schedule, so, um,
It's been cool
I
so far.
yeah, I missed the last one, unfortunately. I scheduled a private class on the same night because 'cause I'm a smart human being,
I completely forgot and
yeah,
had it scheduled, and my wife was like, "Weren't you going to a thing?" I showed up late. It looked awesome. They
yeah,
had like a bunch of different coffees from local
yeah,
roasters.
so I had sent some coffee to them for that, so that's, yeah, I'm excited about those. Um, I don't have anything Aporia specific at this exact moment, but oh, shout out, look up Fauve Coffee, Fauve.
Hmm.
We've got a drop coming in February. It's going to be our special wine yeast maceration Pacamara, which I'm super excited about. That comes from our friends at Gold Mountain in Nicaragua. So, and Billy's just doing some cool things. I think we're going to do like an art gallery in the warehouse. So
Oh, let's
I'm kind
talk
of
more
excited
about
about that.
we'll
Yeah.
talk more about that whole project, when we get there.
Yeah, I know he wants to come on, so
That'd be awesome. Aaron, anything you got?
Not at the moment. I'm focused on schooling and making things with kids. So that's been that's been it.
All right. Well, that sounds great. And appreciate everybody joining us for more Dialed In on the Lunch Order Podcast Network. Stay tuned for some more announcements coming up. Coming up in February, you'll hear ads for WXXI's Connections on the Lunch Order Podcast Network. This is our introduction, partnership with the team over there on their podcast. So you hear our ads over there as well. Really cool to see them, working through the community. And as people who've been on the show multiple times, it's an important program for Rochester and the surrounding areas. So if you're not listening to Connections already, what are you doing? Check it out. So we'll be back next time on the Lunch Hour Podcast Network with more
dialed
Dialed in.
in.
This has been a presentation of the Lunchador Podcast Network.
The only thing I demand is that we do not cut the awkward intro to the second part of this episode.